Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today's video is going to be a Danmei wrap-up of 2024. So it has been a while since I filmed a Danmei Diaries video, and rather than trying to play catch-up with the 2 quarters that I missed in 2024, I figured it was a better idea to just try to do a wrap-up for all of the Danmei I've read, acquired, or that I'm looking forward to for 2024, and tying into 2025 as well. So obviously, because I'm going to be doing a wrap-up for the entire year, this is going to be covering quite a bit of information, but I've tried my best to break it down into different sections. I'm going to start by going over everything that I read. So in 2024, I read 49 Danmei novels, physical novels, and 8 of those 49 were accounted for based on how many books Seven Seas is going to be publishing Ballad of Sword and Wine in. So I read all of Ballad of Sword and Wine in 2024, and since Seven Seas is going to be publishing the series in 8 novels, I counted the entire series as 8 books. So that counts as part of the 49 physical books that I read. So yes, I read 49 physical novels and 9 web novels that I read online and couldn't figure out how to count those as books, so I just counted those as web novels. A lot of them have been licensed now, so I can try to figure out what they equate to in number of books, but we're not going to go into that in this video. But in those 49 Danmei novels, I read across 10 series, and I read 3 standalones, and of course the 9 web novels as well. So to break down everything that I read even further, I'm going to start by going over the status as well as all the publishers that I read across for all the 49 physical novels that I read. I know this sounds confusing, but hopefully it will make more sense as I start going over every single thing. So I'm going to start with Seven Seas. They made up the bulk of everything that I read in 2024, obviously because they have a lot of Danmei licenses. But in Seven Seas, I believe I picked up every single one of their releases last year, with the exception of, I've forgotten the name now actually, 𝕬𝕑𝕬𝕝, and I talked about why I did not pick this up in another video, but the author of the series had some allegations or controversy about them that I did look up and decided personally that I did not want to pick it up. This is not to influence anyone's decision to pick it up or not. You can do your own research if you're curious about what has been said about the author online and decide to pick up the series or not. The only other thing I didn't pick up from Seven Seas last year was the 𝕬𝕝 hardcover, and as beautiful as they are, I also made a personal decision not to pick those hardcovers up because I felt like Seven Seas was trying to pull a fast one on Danmei fans, and I am not a fan of that, and so I decided not to buy a copy. And I'm also trying to buy the Star Ember manhwa of 𝕬𝕝 anyway, so I don't think I necessarily need another edition, especially since it's going to have pretty much the same content as what's in the paperbacks already. I think there are other editions that I'm more interested in acquiring, and I just do not like the idea of supporting what they pulled with the 𝕬𝕝 hardcover. But again, that was a personal decision. I am not judging anyone that decided to buy it, and I am being very honest here. I really do think they are very, very beautiful editions, and anyone that has shared them with me, I am super happy for them because they're beautiful. And if I wasn't petty, I would have bought them myself, but I'm petty, so yeah, I'm not buying them. Okay, those were the only things I didn't buy from Seven Seas last year. So going back to everything that I read, and there are a lot of books here, so I cannot talk about everything that I read in depth. I'm just going to try to give like a brief review of them, how I'm enjoying them, what I'm not enjoying, or how excited I am to keep reading the series. Just very, very quick, rapid fire for all of these series. So for Seven Seas, I'm going to start with the series that got completed in 2024, or that have been completed as of the time I'm filming this video. We're already in 2025. The first series that got completed in 2024 was ℍ𝕁𝕳 Autumns. I've spoken about this one quite a bit on this channel, but I really enjoyed this series. The only gripe that I had with it was the romantic plot of the series that I wasn't the hugest fan of, but it didn't really take that much away from my enjoyment of the series because it plays such a minor role in the overall plot of the story. So even with that romantic plot, I will still give this 4.5 stars. I can only shirk like 0.5 stars away from my overall enjoyment of the series with the romantic plot. So regardless, I thought this was still a beautifully written series. The story flowed really well, the world building was amazing, and I just really enjoyed it. I love Shen Chao very, very much, and I would totally recommend this. The next one that got completed was Guardian. It was completed in 3 books. Okay, I forgot to mention that Thousand Autumns was completed in 5 volumes. That was the 5th volume. For all of this series, I'm just going to be showing the most recent volume because I can't exactly bring every single book out here and show it. That would be chaotic. But yes, this is the 3rd volume of Guardian, and this was another series that I really enjoyed. It had a modern setting, but had very fantastical and Chinese creation, myth retelling kind of story behind it. You follow the life of oh crap, I'm not even remembering a lot of things in this story. Obviously I didn't prepare for this very well, but yes, that was the setting of the story. It had a modern setting and had a mix of fantasy, Chinese mythology retellings, and I really liked. I enjoyed the overall plot, but I did feel like there were parts of it that were rushed at some points. Like the introduction of the Chinese creation myth in the 2nd book felt like info dumping, and even at the wrap-up of the story in the 3rd volume also felt very rushed. But I still enjoyed the way everything was wrapped up. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation where I enjoyed the story as a whole, but I still think that the storytelling could have been handled a little bit differently. Regardless, I will still give this like 4 stars, and I will recommend it if you're interested in reading something that has fantasy in it, but it still sets in the modern world. The very last one that I have here that is now completed as of January 2025 is Stars of Chaos, and this is the 5th volume. I am beefing 7 Seas because we did not get a special edition for Stars of Chaos, and it will be the only series since they started publishing Danmei that won't be getting one. We didn't really get an explanation as to why they decided to do that, and people have just been guessing that because they didn't see a whole lot of sales for the series, they decided not to make one, which, who gives a shit? There are fans of the series. If that's what you've been doing for every other title, then you should do it for this one too. So yes, I am beefing 7 Seas. Can you see a trend here? Whatever, going back to Stars of Chaos, it had a slow start, which I've talked about in my other Danmei Diaries videos where I talk about the series, but the plot starts to pick up a whole lot in the 2nd book, and it just keeps up that pace throughout the other books. Overall, I'm actually going to rate this 4.5 stars. There were things that I was a little bit confused about, probably because of the time in between reading the different volumes, and there is quite a bit of world building and political mumbo jumbo going on in the story, so it's hard to lose track of the story if you do not take notes or remember everything clearly. But overall, I thought this was a pretty well written story. So it is a steampunk setting set in, I want to say it's probably like a historical setting, but it still has a steampunk genre to it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I don't think it's something that I will recommend to everyone. You have to be interested in those specific genres, otherwise you wouldn't enjoy it. I do think some of the characters do stand out, so if you like reading about characters and seeing how they develop, this is a series that does that pretty well. So yeah, that was Stars of Chaos. Now moving on to the ongoing series that I was reading in 2024 from 7 Seas. So when I say ongoing series in 2024, which means that they had started publishing this series prior to 2024, and I continued reading them in 2024, and there were only 2 of those: the Husky and His White Cat-Shizen and Remnants of Filth. The Husky and His White Cat-Shizen is mostly a reread for me because I've read the entire series and I'm just following along and rereading as the official translations are published for 7 Seas. This is in my top 3 Danmei series. I don't think I can ever start talking about it and just do like a brief, yeah, this is why I like it. It can't happen. Like, I can dedicate a whole video or an entire channel to this series and still find it hard to run out of things to talk about. If you are not deterred by the trigger warnings for the series, which you can look up and find very easily anywhere, then I highly recommend that you give this one a try. If you read the first volume and you find it interesting, I think from the first volume, it's pretty much easy for people to determine if this is one that they want to read or not. So those are my thoughts on 𝕬𝕗. Remnants of Filth, pretty similar, although not as trigger heavy as 𝕬𝕗. This is another series that I'm really enjoying, but I also think from the first volume you can determine if this is one that you want to keep reading as well. I'm really enjoying this one, although I'm a little miffed about how every single volume that gets released, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. We only have 2 volumes left to go in this one, and it has this very melancholic and sad vibe to it. I've been told by people who have read the entire series that it has a happy ending. I'm not really seeing it right now, but I'm just going to trust that it's going to happen. It is just such a beautifully written story, and I love it. I'm going to rate this 5 stars for what I've been able to read of it so far, and I actually recommend this one as well. Then we have 4 series that I picked up that were newly published in 2024. So they started publishing this series in 2024. One of which I didn't pick up, 𝕬𝕝, which I already talked about. But the other 4 that I did pick up were The Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish, 𝕬𝕝, Ballad of Sword and Wine, and 𝕬𝕝 Compendium. I'll start with 𝕬𝕝 Compendium because I just talked about 2 of 𝕬𝕝's other works, and honestly, I think this is the only Danmei that I read this year that I'm not sure how I feel about it or if I want to keep reading it. It's not a bad story, it's just a very long one, and I've read up to 3 volumes and I can't really tell where the story is going, and I don't feel invested in it. I don't like any of the characters. They are not likable characters by any means, so I honestly don't know what I'm going to do with this one. I think for the 4th volume, I'm either going to try to buy that as an ebook, or I will wait to read volumes 4 and 5 together. But even then, these books are not exactly cheap, and it feels like a waste of money to keep buying something that I'm not sure I want to keep reading. The only reason I've read 3 volumes so far is because of my experience with Remnants of Filth and The 𝕬𝕝 I loved both novels. I love them, and I'm just going based off of my experience with those 2 and giving this one more chances than other books would usually get, because I DNF in this house. If you're not doing it for me, we're moving on to something else. So yeah, those are my thoughts on 𝕬𝕝 Compendium. Very, very twisted. Please look up trigger warnings for this one. You definitely want to look up trigger warnings for this one. I'd say it's even maybe more twisted than 𝕬𝕝. It's a very messed up story, but yeah. Those are my thoughts on that. Next up is Ballad of Sword and Wine, and you can already see the smile on my face. This is another one that made it into my top 3 Danmei novels of all time. This is an amazing, amazing, amazing novel. Great world building, great character building and development. The characters, every single one of them are so compelling, good side or bad side. They are all written so well. They just kind of jump out of the page at you, and everyone has very, very understandable motivations that tie the story together very beautifully. I'm rereading this one as it gets published with the official translation as well, and every time I finish each book, I just want to crack it open and read it all over again because it is such a good story, and I am always in awe of how good of a job the author did in just building this world and the characterization in it. I highly recommend this one if you love, if you love stories with court politics, political strife, rising and fallings of dynasties. It is just amazing. I definitely recommend this one if you do not shy away from stories that have so many like factions and there's just so much going on in it, very expansive world building. If you think you can handle that much depth to your storytelling, I definitely highly recommend this one. It might not be a favorite for everyone, but I think most people can agree that this is a story that is very, very, very well written. So that is Ballad of Sword and Wine. Definitely one of my top reads of 2024. 𝕬𝕝, written by the same author as 𝕬𝕝. I have done an isolated review on the 1st volume. I am really enjoying this one and looking forward to more volumes of it. It is just so good. The world building is not as expansive as 𝕬𝕝, but I also think I feel that way because I already read 𝕬𝕝 and they're set in the same universe. So I feel like 𝕬𝕝 already did a lot of the heavy work for the world building in 𝕬𝕝, and it feels like a much easier read for that reason. But aside from that and the plot of the series, the 2 main characters, I like them more, their characterization. Well, that's not necessarily true. I did really love Shen-Chao and Yang Wuxi's characterization as well, but I feel like I feel more connected to these 2 because this is meant to have a romantic plot, and these 2 are really selling it for me in comparison to Yang Wuxi and Shen-Chao, and I just love everything that is going on here. I am so excited to see them get together. I love this very much. I recommend it. And then the last one, The Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish. I'll say this was my most surprising read of 2024. I really didn't know what to expect when I picked this one up because it's a transmigration story that has a pet fish as a main character, and you can hear that and think, huh? How is that gonna work? Those were my exact thoughts when I saw it. I was totally judging this book by its title. But imagine my shock when I picked up the first volume, and I had so much fun reading it, and I continue to keep having fun with every single volume. This is the third volume. The fourth one is going to be the last one, and it has just been such a fun and easy read. If you just want something that's fun and easy to read, definitely pick up this one. Their relationship is super cute. It is funny. I've said this multiple times, but it's really easy to read. It's not high stakes. Excuse me. Although it's set in the world of court politics, there are no high stakes. It's more on the fun side. Of course, there are somewhat dangerous things happening because you're kind of following through in a succession battle of sorts in this empire, but the story has a more fun than dangerous vibe to it, and it is just such a fun read. I honestly don't know how else to explain it, but if that sounds like your vibe, definitely give this one a try. It is just so cute. I believe those were all of my 7 Seas reads, and then the next publisher that I'll be going over is Peach Flower House, which is unfortunately now closed. I cannot remember what month in 2024 it is that they made the announcement that they were closing down. I luckily had already acquired every single series that they owned at the time because there weren't a whole lot of them, and so I just decided to buy all of them in 2023. But I read all of the series that I have here from Peach Flower House are complete, by the way. There is one standalone. The very first one I read in 2024 was In the Dark. This is a 3-volume series. I actually have the first volume of this one with me, and it is like a psychological thriller slash crime thriller series. I want to talk more about the 2 main characters, but I feel like going in blind is better because even the synopsis does not give you a lot of information on the 2 of them, and the book works their character identities into its plot really well in a way that's how it's meant to be reviewed to you, as opposed to you already knowing before going into the story. I hope that makes sense, but I enjoyed the crime and psychological aspect of this series. I thought there could have been some more work done with their character developments because I didn't really feel connected to the characters, and if anything, I resonated more with some of the cases that were covered throughout the 3 volumes of the series. But overall, I actually did really enjoy this one. Every time I sat down with it, it was just such an easy read and very gripping. I found myself just unable to stop reading it every time that I picked it up, so it was very interesting in that aspect. And if you like crime and psychological thriller series, definitely give this one a read. I did enjoy it. The next one is a single volume release, so a standalone, and that is Peach Blossom Deaths. I think I've mentioned that I was curious about this one because of the controversy or allegations surrounding the series. So if you're familiar with the Chinese drama Eternal Love or 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms that was adapted from, I want to say it was To the Sky Kingdom, the author of that novel was, accused of plagiarism, and they were accused of plagiarizing from Peach Blossom Deaths. Now, I didn't find a whole lot of text to support that after reading this, although it's been a while since I watched or read the series that Eternal Love is based on. The author of To the Sky Kingdom did admit to plagiarizing Peach Blossom Deaths. I've already spoken a lot about this novel without actually talking about it, but this is a novel. I'm starting to mix up my wuxia and xianxia, but it's set in like the heavenly realm and stuff like that. It's the story about this man that happens upon his immortality by chance. He's given a task to oversee the love trial of 2 other immortals, and it starts out as this very funny series where you're trying to figure out how he's going to oversee their love trial, but there is a lot more that ties all of the characters in the story together, so it just talks a lot about predestined fates. Until about the last quarter of the book, I did not know who the main couple of this series was, but that wasn't even an annoying thing to read about. I still found it very enjoyable. I liked the way the idea of fate was explored in the story, and I enjoyed the way that the resolution of the story was... Ooh, how was I going to end that sentence? I have no idea. I would just re-say that and say I enjoyed the way the story was resolved. So as a standalone, I do think this is a pretty interesting read and I would recommend it as well. Then the last novel I read from Peach Flower House last year was a reread. I reread 𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬 with 3 friends, so it was a buddy read. Ooh, I'm sorry, I'm just really tired today. You can probably see it on my face, but if I do not record this video today, I don't know when else I'm going to get a chance to do it, but yes, I did a buddy read of 𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬 with 3 friends. 3 of us were rereading it and 1 of us was reading it for the first time. I've done an isolated review of this series as well. I love this series very much. I do feel like I enjoyed it more on my first read more than I did on my second read. And the reason for that was the court politics didn't stand out as much to me on the first read, and I was just more focused on the romantic aspect of the series, because when I found out about it, what most people mentioned about it was how romantic of a story it was. And I think I just went into the story with that expectation, so I was able to focus more on that. But on the second read, when I was already familiar with the story, I focused on the court politics a little bit more. It's not meant to be the main plot of the series, but I do feel like the author introduced way too much of it for it to not feel like it was meant to be a main plot, if that makes sense. I don't know if this is a she, they inserted enough of the court politics for it to start to feel like it was like a butter? No, that's not the word I want to use. Like a burden on the romantic plots that was meant to be the main series, without really resolving some questions around some of the court politics. Again, because it's not meant to be the main plot of the series, you can probably just ignore it, but if you do pay attention to it, there's a lot of things that are just like cloaks and mirrors in the court politics aspects of the story. Regardless, the romantic plot of this series is still going to be one of my all-time favorites. I love their love for each other. It is so beautiful, and the way they support each other. And this was one of the first Danmei novels that I read, and I think why I was so drawn to the romantic plots was just the way it broke every understanding or every thought you probably have about gender roles. These are 2 men that just have so much respect for each other. They support each other at different times in life, in their lifetime, and I can talk on and on about this series. It's honestly one of my favorites and I would highly recommend it. I've seen mixed reviews on it enough to know that this is probably not for everyone, so that's not necessarily going to change how I feel about it. I still think this is a beautifully written series that I will rate 5 stars overall, regardless of everything that I just said about it. But yeah, I will recommend it, regardless of if you enjoy it or not. I still think this is a series that is worth reading, if not for anything, also because of its short length, if you can get it if you don't already own it. So yeah, that was 𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬. And then the last publisher that I read from was Via Lactea. So I picked up 2 standalone books from them because I was trying them for the first time in 2024. I didn't want to buy any long series, so I decided to pick up these 2, 𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬 and The Missing Piece. I won't be talking about them because I have a video talking about this publisher specifically on my channel, and in that video I talked about both novels and what they were about and why I enjoyed them. They're very short reads that I really enjoyed. I will say this about the author of 𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬. I read 3 other novels from the author last year and I loved every single one of them. She's an amazing author. She's honestly becoming one of my favorite Danmei authors. She has such a fun style of writing, and I'm going to talk more about some of her novels that I read in 2024 when I go over the web novels that I read. Oh shit! I'm just starting to realize that I haven't spoken about the web novels that I read. I might have to split this video into 2 parts. Okay, rapid fire time. The first one I read was Mist. This is a sci-fi novel. If you like sci-fi, please read this novel. I'm planning to do a reread sometime this year and then do a dedicated video for the series. I hope I'm actually able to do that because in the last 6 months or so, there's just been so much going on in life and I say things and don't follow up on them or don't follow through with them. But I do want to reread Mist and do a dedicated video for it because I think it's a series that is definitely worth it. This is the last novel that makes up my top 3 favorite Danmei series of all time as of now, until maybe another series decides to break into those top 3 roles and dethrone one of my current top 3s. So yes, that is missed Wait for Me After School. That is by the author 𝕽𝕚𝕚𝕚, who wrote 𝕬𝕝. This is more of like a coming of age story set in high school. I think I've talked about this in one of my Danmei Diaries videos, although I'm not going to tell you to look for which one it is because I don't even want to do that. But I just mentioned that I really enjoyed this author's writing, and it was just so beautifully written. It had this very nostalgic vibe to it, the way the coming of age aspect of the story was written, that just flowed so well and had this very poignant and warm feeling to it. But another thing that I really appreciated in the story was the fact that after they graduated from college or from high school, there was a time skip. This is not an annoying time skip, by the way. There is a reason for it. But there was a time skip that followed the lives of the main characters after they had graduated from college. They're already working adults, and I liked that we were able to see what they had made of themselves as adults and also see what their relationship looked like as grown men. So this was one I really enjoyed and I recommend it. The next one I read was Devil Venerable Also Wants to Know. This was crack, but it was great. Some of the best female characters I've ever read in Danmei. I know, Danmei, it's meant to be about gay men, but as much as I loved the main couple, the female characters were the standouts of this novel, and I loved it. Oh my god, this was so good. This is another one that I've talked about in one of my Danmei Diaries videos. It's like I don't know if I should call it like a transmigration plot, but the main character gets a book that basically lets him find out that the world he's living in is based on a novel, and he's basically trying to change everything that happens in that novel so what happens in the novel doesn't happen in the world he lives in. I hope that made sense, but it's like that kind of transmigration plot where he's trying to change something based on some information that he is now privy to. But this was amazing. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. The next one was Accidentally Married a Man Full of Vinegar. This was just such a sweet and tooth-achingly beautifully written read. That did not make any sense, but let's just run with it. But this was a story about, I can't even call it like an arranged marriage. It's more like the two main characters had a one-night stand and they decided like, you know what, I want to get married, but I don't necessarily feel like putting in all the effort that goes into looking for someone to get married to. You seem like a good person on paper. I seem like a good person on paper. We could be compatible. How about we give it a try? So they get married, and then you see them fall in love with each other after the fact. It was so sweet. I loved it. Give it a read. The next one is I Ship My Rival and Me. Oh, I was meant to be mentioning which one of these had gotten licensed. I'll do that after I talk about all of them. But I Ship My Rival and Me, I think is set in a world of, I wanted to say idols, but I don't think that's quite correct. There are actors, and for some reason, I don't know how the rumor started, but their fans have started treating the both of them as rivals, when really the fans are the ones that are at war. They don't really have much of a relationship with each other. But one day, one of the main characters stumbles across a fan site where there are an underground set of fans that basically ship him with his rival, and he starts getting sucked into this fan site and shipping them as well, because it is just so fun. It is a fun, short, and interesting read. I don't know, if that sounds like something you'd like to read, just give it a read. It's cute. And this one has been licensed, but it has been licensed as a manhwa. I didn't pick it up, although the art looks really cute. I think it's worth a read if that is your vibe. The next one was Mary Price the Salted Fish. This was one of my favorite reads last year. Historical setting about a brilliant, beautiful boy who wanted to become a doctor. I don't remember what they called them in that historical setting where the story is set in, but basically his plans to become a doctor were thwarted because he was married off to a dying son of a rich family as part of I'm forgetting, I think it was like a 𝕍𝕚𝕟, which is like a warding off of death. So basically, in order to ward off the death that was clinging to this very ill son from the young family, they married him off to the main character, because his marriage to the main character was meant to make sure that the veil of death hanging over him, I guess, was going to recede for a little bit longer. But That is the setup of the story, and the cover makes it seem like he's just this very vulnerable and compliant and subservient character, but no, that is not what you're getting in this book. I loved the main character very much. He's the kind of main character that, even though he's not in a position of power, people who are in positions of power try to use their power against him, but he refuses to stand for it and just does things to make sure that they can't get away with whatever shit they do. And honestly, who hasn't been in that situation? There are so many ways that people of power abuse their power, and you wish you could just suck it to them by doing something to make them regret their actions. And that was partly why I enjoyed this novel so much, but I also really enjoyed the development of the relationship and also characterization of the main character and the male lead as well. It was a beautifully written story, but I can't say more than that. I can do it. This was also by 𝕬𝕉𝕬𝕝. This was one of my absolute favorite reads of 2024. Oh my god, this has an esports setting. That is all you need to know about it. The main character has a smart mouth. I love him with my entire heart. Honestly, one of my favorite characters in 2024. I love him so much, and it's just always going to have a special place in my heart. Please read I Can Do It. If you love reading esports as a genre, you need to read I Can Do It. It was so good. Well, this is not the last one. The next one was also by 𝕬𝕉𝕬𝕝 with an esports setting, but with a twist. And the title of this one is Guide on How to Fail at Online Dating. So, our main character has a cousin who has been jilted by a guy that was basically dating two people at the same time, and she's embarrassed, she runs off, and he wants to avenge his cousin. So he decides to catfish the guy that cheated on his cousin, except he finds out later down the line that his cousin was catfished as well, and the person that he was trying to take revenge on for his cousin was actually the wrong person. And all of this was happening online in a game. But plot twist, you know what, I shouldn't say the plot twist, but it is such a fun read. There is an in-game version to it as well as an IRL version to it. So if you watch Chinese dramas and you've watched Love 𝕬𝕗, it kind of has the same vibe. This had like an MMORPG, I believe, was the game that was the type of game that was played in it. I know absolutely nothing about gaming, but I still really enjoyed this esports setting games because the author does such a great job of breaking down the gaming lingo, so it's still enjoyable for noobs like me. But yeah, I love this. It was so fun and sweet. I adored them. The very last one that I read is a very short story titled Tailhook that follows two pilots who start out their relationship as friends with benefits, but they start to develop feelings for each other. One of them has, however, just become quite, I don't want to say jaded, but he kind of acts like he has been jaded by love, even though deep down he wants to be loved by someone. And it just talks about, the story just mostly follows the both of them giving into each other and having a loving relationship. They are also older because they're pilots and they're grown men to be in that position in their lives. So I think I also enjoyed the story for that reason. And now going over everything that has been licensed, that has been licensed. Guide on How to Fail at Online Dating has been licensed. I Can Do It has been licensed. Married Price to Salted Fish has been licensed. I Ship My Rival and Me has been licensed. 𝕬𝕝𝕝 Wants to Know has been licensed. And Mist has also been licensed. So of the 9 Webnovels that I read last year, 7 of them have been licensed. The only 2 that didn't get licensed were Away From Me After School and Accidentally Married a Man Full of Vinegar. So if you have any Danmei web novels that you want to get licensed, you should send them my way, because I'm getting a kind of prophetic vibe by the fact that everything that I read last year got an English license announcement. Probably taking that too far, but yes, that was everything that I read in 2024 and how I enjoyed them. I was going to talk about new publishers and what other Danmei novels that I've been picking up outside of 7 Seas, but this seems like it is already a pretty long video at 40 minutes, so I think I'm just gonna end this here and probably move that portion of what I wanted to say into another video. And with that, that was everything that I read in 2024 in terms of Danmei. What were your favorite Danmei reads of 2024? Are there any of this that you were curious about and maybe this video has convinced you to pick them up, even though I had to talk through like, what was it, 10 series, 3 standalones, and 9 web novels. So basically like 22 different series. So basically like 2 minutes for each series. I know that's not a very long time to convince someone to read someone, at least not if to convince someone to read something, at least not if you're me, because I tend to ramble without actually getting to the point. But anywho, I hope you were able to find your next read in this video, or maybe there was something that I said that you felt pretty much the same thing about a series. But yeah, that is the end of the video. Whatever day you find yourself watching this, make it a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.